Hello, this is Alan, welcoming you to the 2028th edition of the Enfield Talking newspaper, Dateline 26th of November 2015. The readers this week are Sonia, Jenny, Roz and myself with Ian on the controls. The items that we will be reading come from our local newspapers, which are the Enfield Gazette and Advertiser and the Enfield Independent, and are their copyright. Our title music is Country Rock Polka, as if you didn't know, composed by Pat Pree, Fernand Bouillon and Harry Breuer, and performed by Jean-Jacques Perry, and is used with his kind permission. The next time I do this, I'm not going to say those names, I'm going to ask you to phone in and tell me. Local stories include hundreds evacuated after cafe bomb scare. Cuts warning to Osborne by adult social care chiefs. Project will see youth worker based at A&E. And record breaker. And before we go on, just to remind you that from January next year, we'll be going digital. It's not scary, it's very easy. But some of you may still require help, and you may require a boombox. Any help or a boombox, why don't you just get on the phone and call Diane de Jersey before Christmas, and she'll be of great help to you. Thanks very much. If you're experiencing any problems receiving your Enfield Talking newspaper, please phone Diane on 020 8805 6578. She, of course, is your listener's representative and will be very pleased to help you. Now, Sonia will read the first item of local news. Sonia.
Crowds were evacuated from Enfield town after a bomb scare in a coffee shop. The suspicious package, thought to be a suitcase, was found inside Cafe Nero in Church Street near Enfield Market at 8:30 a.m. Police evacuated people from the area, and the suitcase was destroyed by a bomb squad in a controlled explosion after 10 a.m. Detectives say it was a false alarm and there was no bomb inside the suitcase. People were allowed back inside at 10:30 a.m. as cordons were removed, while Cafe Nero reopened at around 11 a.m. Pani Apostolou, who works in the Enfield Independent's office in London Road, Enfield, said, "We heard a controlled explosion that sounded like a bomb. It wasn't ridiculously loud, it didn't shake the windows, but there was definitely a bang." Despite the chaos, Terence Marriott, manager of the market, said that the stallholders were not frightened after being evacuated. He said, "We just opened up as normal this morning." Then the briefcase was found. Police cordoned off one area, then pushed us further back until the entire market was cordoned off. We heard the controlled explosion, and then we were all allowed back in. We just want to get back on with it. Nobody caught up in the incident was injured. Judith Cornfoot, who lives in Enfield, was standing by the barrier waiting to see the outcome of the scare with her husband Brian. She said, "It's very worrying. It seems like you can't go anywhere anymore without something like this. People are very concerned. We have had quite a few people come up to us and ask what is happening." The pavement and windows outside Cafe Nero were covered in coloured paper, although it is not clear whether this came from the suitcase. The manager of the store, who did not wish to be named, said that although she was shocked by the events, she was glad everything was now fine. Europe is on high alert after terror attacks in Paris this month, where 129 people were killed.
A politician with responsibility for adult social care in Enfield has added her name to a warning to the Chancellor of the potential consequences of further cuts. Alef Kazimoglu and 18 other Labour social care leaders across London have written to George Osborne. In the letter, they said that a 30% cut to council budgets over the next 4 years would mean, in all likelihood, a very significant impact on adult social care services. They told Mr. Osborne they feared the move would put at severe risk the ability to fund elderly residents who are supported in the community instead of occupying a hospital bed, which typically costs the public purse 3 times the amount, as well as support for the person experiencing mental ill health, who needs help through a period of intense crisis. They said they were contacting him instead because they feared their most vulnerable residents would suffer if services were cut. As social care risks being stripped back to the barest of necessities, this will further undermine and increase strain on our much-loved national institution, they added. Mr. Osborne was also warned that cuts could put the NHS and the social care infrastructure into a state of crisis, costing more in the long term, but denying vulnerable patients the right level of care and support. Ms. Kazimoglu said she feared that GPs and emergency departments would feel the pressure if funds were not available to care for people in the community and they were admitted to hospital instead. Services which could be cut were in-home care for the elderly for help with tasks including bathing, respite and support for young people with disabilities as they become adults, said Enfield Council's Labour Group.
Young victims of violent crime who go to North Middlesex University Hospital A&E department will be automatically assigned a youth worker under the latest proposals to help tackle youth violence in the borough. The project, which is being run between the hospital, Enfield Council and Oasis UK, will see a youth worker stationed at the hospital who will be alerted as soon as a teenager turns up wounded. The youth worker will then assess if they are a possible target of or are participant in gang crime and refer them to a range of services geared towards battling gang crime in North London. The council also hopes that as well as intervening directly with young people, the project will help give the authorities a more accurate reading of how many teens are at risk of falling prey to North East London's gang culture. The council's cabinet member for community organisations and culture, Yasmin Brett, said youth violence is a serious problem, but is one that is perpetuated by a relatively small number of people. Working together gives us an opportunity to better understand the problems we face and do something about it at a critical moment. This is an innovative, proportionate and sensible way of making sure vulnerable young people can assess their services that they really need to turn their lives around. We know that gangs and serious youth violence are issues we need to urgently address, and this is the most effective way of contacting those people who are directly affected by it. A pilot scheme, which ran for 1 year last month, focused on young people from Enfield, and the scheme has now been rolled out on a permanent basis to deal with teenagers and young people from Enfield and the neighbouring borough of Haringey. After 224 victims of violence from Enfield were referred to the youth worker stationed at North Mid in the course of the pilot scheme. Dr. Gail Han, consultant paediatrician at the hospital in Stirling Way, said, "We are delighted to have had the team based in the hospital for a year with us and working alongside us. Our busy doctors and nurses really appreciate being able to refer young people to someone who can offer practical help and support when we think the young person may have been a victim of violence or bullying. And in this way, we hope we can play a part in stopping it from happening again," said Dr. Han.
Good idea. An Enfield plumber was allegedly recruited to the team which carried out the Hatton Garden jewel heist by one of its ringleaders, a court has heard. Hugh Doyle was recruited by lookout John Kenny Collins, aged 74, because he appears to know Hugh Doyle well, a jury at Woolwich Crown Court was told. The court heard that an estimated £14 million worth of diamonds, gold, precious stones, cash and other jewellery had been stolen in an audacious burglary at Hatton Garden safe deposit over the Easter weekend in April this year. Prosecutor Phillip Evans said it was to be the largest burglary in English legal history. Police have recovered thousands of items of jewellery, and police have shown photographs of recovered property to 39 victims, but at best a third of the items taken in the raid have been recovered, said Mr. Evans. He said the raid took a considerable time in its planning and involved a number of people who were not all at Hatton Garden over the weekend of the robbery. Mr. Evans said that the 48-year-old Doyle was recruited by Collins from Islington, North London, who has admitted conspiracy to burgle the safe deposit company. He alleged that Collins also recruited co-defendant William Lincoln, whose sister he lives with, and Lincoln's nephew, John Harbinson. The prosecutor alleged that Collins knew that he could trust the three men. Plumber Doyle of Riverside Gardens, Enfield, denies a charge of conspiracy to convert or transfer property between January the 1st and May the 19th, 2015, and an alternative charge of concealing, converting or transferring jewellery and or other stolen property between April the 1st and May 19th, 2015. Lincoln, age 60, from Bethnal Green, East London, Harbinson, age 42, from Benfleet in Essex, and Carl Wood, age 58, of Elderbeck Close, Cheshunt, deny conspiracy to burgle the Hatton Garden safe deposit over the Easter weekend and conspiracy to conceal, convert or transfer property. The jury heard that another man from Enfield, Daniel Jones, age 58, was also described as a ringleader and was present at the planning meetings before and after the raid on the vault. Police found a book called Forensics for Dummies, a walkie-talkie, cash and breathing and face masks at Jones's home in Park Avenue, Bush Hill Park. Jones has admitted his role in the burglary and will be sentenced at a later date. Terry Perkins, age 67, of Heen Road, Enfield, Collins, and Brian Reeder, age 76, from Dartford in Kent, also admit conspiracy to burgle and will be sentenced at a later date. The court heard that jewellery and cash were found at Perkins's home, together with blue overalls. The trial continues.
Frontline services will not be safe from cutbacks as Enfield Council bosses look to make £17 million worth of savings in the annual budget. Children's services, adult care and park maintenance could all be at risk of cutbacks in the forthcoming budget. The authority is projecting an overspend in the financial budget of 2015 to 16 by £2.7 million. This includes a projected overspend of £3.2 million on children's services. However, it says this will be addressed before the end of the financial year. Councillor Doug Taylor, leader of Enfield Council, said, "We are in a very difficult position with the cutbacks we have to make. In past years, we have made a number of savings in the way we work, but now it would be disingenuous for me to say public services will not take a hit." In the current budget, Enfield Council found £29 million worth of savings and will need to find another £50 million by 2019 to 20. Councillor Taylor bemoaned the reduction in government funding since 2010, which has seen a drop from £191 million to £81 million by 2020. He said, "There are no easy answers, but we must look forward and have a practical discussion on how to face the challenges. We have Enfield 2017, which is revolutionising the way we work and helping us make savings. However, we must admit there will be big consequences, whether that means our parks aren't as well groomed or other services are cut back, it's hard to say. The council is now consulting with people in the borough and will be sending a letter to each house asking residents to list their priorities and services they would be happy to see cut. The first consultation day will be held on Friday, November the 27th at Palmer's Green Library. Calls have been made for Councillor Andrew Stafford, Cabinet Member of Finance, to resign after an explicit outburst at this month's council meeting. However, Councillor Taylor revealed the councillor will remain in his post, and it is understood he has been reprimanded for his actions. The budget will be tabled at full council in February 2016.
A school cancelled trips into central London over fears of a potential terrorist attack. Rainham Primary School in Rainham Avenue, Edmonton, posted information on the calendar section of its website stating, "We have been advised by the local authority to cancel all trips into London until further notice. This is because of the concerns over recent attacks in Paris." However, the local authority denied issuing any such advice to any school. An Enfield Council spokesman said, "The following advice from government has been issued to schools. We have issued no specific advice relating to school trips within London. If your school is planning a trip, you will need to risk assess each trip on its own merits, taking into account the views of parents. If you are planning on taking children abroad, you should particularly review and consider online advice from the Foreign and Commonwealth Office." A spokeswoman for Rainham Primary School said, "This stemmed from a misunderstanding. It was a case of head teachers seeking advice from each other. It was not borough-led and was a mistake to say otherwise. The website has now been amended."
The dramatic arrival by helicopter of Father Christmas thrilled youngsters in Enfield. Santa swapped his sleigh and flying reindeer for the chopper to get him from Lapland to Phoenix Rose Garden Centre in Cruise Hill. And waiting excitedly for him as he touched down in an adjoining field belonging to Thompson's Landscaping were crowds of excited children. "We told them we needed as many boys and girls to wave and cheer, so he knew exactly where to land," said the General Manager, Steve Williams. Helping them make as much noise as they could was a professional children's entertainer dressed as Snow White. Mr. Williams added, "Christmas is the second busiest time of the year for us, and Santa's Grottos is always a popular attraction, bringing in families. They get to visit his house and its fire and Christmas tree, tell him exactly what they want for Christmas, and receive a present from him, even getting a glitter tattoo from Santa's little helper and his elves," he added. Santa's Grotto is open between 11 a.m. and 4 p.m. from Wednesdays to Sundays leading up to Christmas at a cost of £10 per child, and adults can go free.
Wow. Santa's getting bigger, or is that just inflation? A man who is left paralysed from the chest down is hoping his app will help to transform the lives of people with disabilities. Ben Crabb of Cotswold Way, Enfield, says he recalls very little of his motorbike accident in 2013, which has left him wheelchair-bound. The 28-year-old said, "I don't think it's something you ever come to terms with, being paralysed, that is. It was hard because friends would have to make plans around me, and I kept pushing them away." However, Mr. Crabb's life was turned around after he discovered wheelchair tennis. He said, "I enjoyed sports, but was never very good at them. But when I started playing wheelchair tennis, It became a release for me, something I could do and forget about my injuries. Returning to work just 4 months after his accident, Mr. Crabbe continued to look for other sports and ways to meet new people, but found nothing for people with disabilities. This gave him the idea of a new app to connect people with disabilities and give them access to different sporting events all in one application. He said, "I used different websites, but there was nothing out there specifically for disabled people to connect. I have now met with some amazing people with similar disabilities. It has given me my confidence back. Sport has been a lifesaver for me, and now I want to help others do the same." Mr. Crabbe has been building his application called Perfect Imperfections since May, and is hoping to launch it in January. He has now taken his wheelchair tennis exploits to the next level, and has started trials for the Tokyo 2020 Olympics. He added, "They say everything happens for a reason. Maybe this app is the reason."
Small businesses in the borough are gearing up for a day of showcasing their wares as preparations for Small Business Saturday on December the 5th get underway. Splashing the cash in small, local and independent businesses has been shown to directly benefit the local community, more so than when buying from large dominant chain stores on the high street. Research carried out by local authorities shows that for every £1 spent with a small business, 63 pence went straight back into the local community, compared to just 40 pence spent in a large chain store. The Small Business Saturday campaign began in America as a way to show shoppers that buying locally is the best way of supporting a community. Last year saw the launch of the UK version of the campaign, where small businesses and local authorities joined forces to show that Christmas presents are best when bought from local suppliers. Independent businesses, who will be eager to welcome new customers on December the 5th, will include the Library Cafe in Enfield Town Library in Church Street, run by Urvashi Rowe, who has been pioneering using as much Enfield-grown fresh produce as possible in her ever-evolving lunch menu. Orchid Bar and Bistro, also on Church Street in Enfield Town, will be welcoming new customers on the day, as will Ecovino Teatro, the organic wine bar that opened earlier this year in the Dugdale Centre in London Road, Enfield.
When it comes to epic productions, Chicken Shed Theatre's Christmas show takes some beating. The internationally acclaimed inclusive theatre in Chaseside, Southgate, is staging its own theatrical adaptation of the popular festive song The 12 Days of Christmas. And with a cast totalling 800, split into 4 rotating troupes per performance, it's on a scale comparable with one of those Cecil B. DeMille Hollywood blockbusters. Each show has a cast of up to 200 members. It truly is the biggest and most spectacular production you'll ever see, said Chicken Shed spokeswoman Susan Jamson. Rehearsals have been taking place and the show is due to run until January the 9th. It tells the tale of 4 children who follow the partridge of the song in a quest for one of the 5 gold rings, encountering an array of larger-than-life characters on the way, ranging from paranoid gaggles of geese to maids a-milking, lords a-leaping, swans a-swimming and pipers piping.
Caring police were honoured for their compassionate work following a fatal accident in which a schoolboy died in Edmonton. Police constables Ilyas Anwari and Ian Nelson were first on the scene to rush to an hour accident in January in which 13-year-old David Barcelos died. While PC Anwari helped a paramedic, PC Nelson parked his car across the road and identified witnesses and a traumatised driver. Police constables Gemma Curran and Anthony Hamilton Pilot were praised for their sensitive care they gave the boy's family. 4 more officers were also commended for their professionalism and compassion when a quartet of officers responded to a call in the early hours from a terrified, bedridden resident in Henley Road, Edmonton, who said there was a man in the building opening doors by torchlight. Police constables Ian Cromhut, Paul Jones, Lucy Mammut and Stevie Parry were commended for their bravery and devotion to duty when they arrested an armed man at the house. PC Jones discovered the man hiding under a bed, armed with a knife, and the officers were praised for putting the frightened residents' welfare first. Other commendations went to Inspector Andy Port, who spotted similarities in a series of robberies and worked with Detective Constable Robert Delaney to track down the suspect. When Police Constable Christopher Jackson stopped a man who was getting out of a car wearing gloves, he didn't suspect that he would recover a cache of weapons, including a foot-long machete, CS spray, baseball bats and a hammer, and he was praised for appearing calm as he arrested 4 men who were planning to commit a serious assault.
An inquest into the death of the daughter of a leading human rights lawyer will take place next month. QC Michael Mansfield's daughter, Anna, aged 44 of Enfield, ended her life on May the 1st this year. The mother of 2 had received a redundancy notice just weeks before committing suicide. At a pre-inquest trial at Barnet Coroner's Court in Wood Street, Coroner Andrew Walker deemed it necessary to hear evidence from GP Laurie Davis, who saw Miss Mansfield before her death. The inquest into the death is due to be held on the 15th of December at Barnet's Coroner's Court and is expected to last 1 week.
A man has combined his love of cycling and pubs to complete a marathon challenge for charity. Richard Reeve, 51, of Enfield, has cycled to 100 micropubs during 2015 as part of his New Year's resolution. Mr. Reeve used the journey to raise awareness for the Alzheimer's Society, a condition that his late father suffered from. He has currently raised £5,500. The journey has seen Mr. Reeve rack up more than 2,200 miles. The cycling enthusiast savoured the taste of a pint at his final destination, the Penny Farthing in Crayford, Kent, on November the 14th. Mr. Reeve said, "The Micropub Association and so many of the micropubs have been very supportive, along with several microbreweries. One brewery even created a special one-off beer for my ride. To donate, go to uk.virginmoneygiving.com/Richard Reeve Cycling.
Officers have uncovered a cannabis plant in Upper Edmonton and told offenders to grow tomatoes instead. Police visited a house in Brook Crescent, Edmonton, and took to Twitter to issue a message to anybody growing cannabis. Enfield MPs tweeted, "Upper Edmonton have been out harvesting again. We did warn you. Grow drugs and we will be visiting #tomatoes instead." Police said 96 plants had been found on the site and no arrests have yet been made.
A party was thrown to thank hospital volunteers for their hard work. Flowers, badges and certificates were handed to volunteers at Chase Farm Hospital in Enfield and Barnet Hospital. The Royal Free Charity, which held the party in Barnet Hospital, plans to make this an annual event. Volunteers were praised for their efforts by Dominic Dodd, Chairman of the Royal Free London, and Julia Patcher, Chairman of the Royal Free Charity. Elaine Donaldson, Voluntary Service Manager, said the evening was amazing and many of our volunteers coming along and being formally recognised for their wonderful work.
That's all for Side 1, dear listener. please stop your machine now, take out the cassette, turn it over, you can hear us on side 2.